Well, for Wonders, TRT World's Afghanistan analyst Tanya Goudsouzian joins us now from Istanbul. Hi, Tanya. So what do we understand from this outcome of the consultative Loya Jirga or four-day Grand Assembly, as we call it?
Well, the consultative Loya Jirga was criticized by critics of President Ashraf Ghani when it was first convened. But it would be very difficult to find fault with the outcome. Many of the delegates, the main outcome of it was a show of support for the peace talks with the Taliban and for the government to show a measure of flexibility towards the Taliban by calling on the president to release Taliban prisoners and for an immediate ceasefire. But they were also very firm in their opposition to some of the demands by the Taliban. Demands such as the dissolution of the Afghan National Security Forces or returning to the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is what the name of the country was when the Taliban was in power. They've also rejected reforms to the constitution that would bring the country and society back to that period, especially in terms of social issues and human rights and women's rights.
So, Tanya, the Loya Jirga has called for an immediate ceasefire. Is the Taliban likely to accept it? They haven't in the previous time, so what's different this time around?
Well, as the president said, a ceasefire can only work if it goes two ways. And at the moment, a permanent ceasefire is not going to be working in the interest of the Taliban, while it is still extracting significant concessions from the Americans. A temporary ceasefire, however, one for the holy month of Ramadan, might be possible because it would also be good PR for the Taliban. But a permanent ceasefire prospects are slim at the moment.
So how are people feeling all about this? Do they have any trust left in the authorities to sort out this conflict? The olive branch or the peace offering that the Ashraf Ghani government is making towards the Taliban will probably boost his popularity as he's seen as making overtures towards the Taliban. That's something that's likely to work in his favor. But we have to remember that the Taliban has not responded to any of this. The Taliban has essentially ignored the Loya Jirga, has carried on with talks with the US as if the Loya Jirga wasn't even happening. And to date, they continue to refuse to acknowledge the elected government of Afghanistan as anything other than a puppet regime. So we wait and see. Well, thank you very much for that insight there, Tanya Goudsouzian, live from Istanbul.